Next slide. Let's see. I think Anne's turn. Okay, very good. So a lot of Americans have become debt slaves, right? They buy these mansion houses, and then they think they own the house, but actually the house owns them, right? Or these expensive cars, they think they own the car, but actually the car is driving them. They think they're driving the car, but actually the car is driving them, right? Insane, right? So that's a way of becoming a debt slave. I have a student here, and he bought I think $39,000 truck, and his monthly payment is $700 a month, and he's making minimum wage. So I told him, "What are you doing? You're turning yourself into a debt slave." And he said, "Well, it's only for 5 years." Okay, well, only 5 years. Would you like to be a slave for 5 years? I would. I would. Okay, so that's very unfortunate, but it's happening a lot. And of course, these marketing organizations want you to do that, right? They want you to borrow money so that you can pay them the money you borrowed plus interest, right? Because usually, whatever money you borrow, you end up paying double the amount. You borrow $1,000, you end up paying 2,000. You borrow $10,000, you end up paying 20,000, like that. So what they want is the interest. You borrow 100,000, you end up paying 200,000. You borrow $1,000,000, you end up paying 2 million. Once you add in the interest payments over the term of the loan, which might be 30 years. Okay, so that's what they want, but that's not good for you. Right? It's not to your advantage. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the difference between good debt and bad debt. Let's start by talking about bad debt. Okay, so unfortunately, most debt is not good, right? Um, the average car price in the United States right now is $48,000, a new one. Okay, so let's do the math. Let's say you borrow $48,000 to buy a brand new car, which is probably not a good idea. And let's say you have a 5-year loan. It's going to take you 5 years to pay down this loan. And actually, you're going to pay probably twice the amount for the loan once you add in the interest. Okay? So we multiply by 2. So now you're paying, the car is actually going to cost you about $96,000 in the next 5 years. Okay? And you've just turned yourself into a debt slave. And you're working like crazy to pay for this stupid car, basically. Right? And then you think you're driving the car, but actually the car's driving you. Insane. Okay? So that's one example that I did. Car, especially new cars. Okay? What are some other examples of bad debt? If you borrow money for an expensive watch, right? $5,000-$6,000 watch. Most people don't have $5,000-$6,000 for a watch, so they put on their credit card or the $10,000 Hermes bag or whatever. Right? That's not good because those things are not going to go up in value. They're going to their value is going to go what? Down. So you're just losing money. So that $96,000 brand new car, the brand new car that supposedly cost you $48,000, but it's actually going to cost you $96,000. Within 3 years, you've lost half of that money. Okay, that's bad. Those are examples of bad debt. A lot of times. Okay, but there's also such a good thing as good debt. Let's talk about that a little bit. The first example of good debt is student loans. Okay, and the average college student in the United States right now has about $38,000 in student loan debt. Okay, which is not actually favorable, but it can be good debt. And the reason is that they're borrowing this money to finish their college education, because on the assumption that once they finish their college education, they'll be able to get a better job and they'll be able to make more money over the long term. That's why they borrow this money, $38,000. That's a lot of money. Okay, so that's the strategy. Okay, and let me give you an example. I want to use the example of people who become doctors, who go to medical school. Okay, and I think the average doctor in the United States is graduating with about $200,000 in student loan debt. Okay, so you spend 4 or 5 years as an undergrad, maybe 4 years in medical school, and maybe 2 or 3 years as a resident now, and then you're done. You're ready to go. Okay, and you come out of that with about 200,000. In residency, they do get paid, but they're coming out with about $200,000 in student loans. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, okay? But they know that the average doctor in California is making about $20,000 a month, okay? Times 12 months, they're going to make on average about $240,000 a year as doctors, okay? Let's multiply it by 0.75, because their income tax bracket is higher than most people. They're going to take home about $180,000. Okay, and let's say that they spend $50,000 a year on their living expenses, which is a little bit high. Okay, it's about average for California income, but it's a little bit high. But they're doctors, okay, so they can do it. So then, after taxes and after the expenses, they're still going to have $130,000 extra. Okay, so in 1 year, they will. Well, not the first year, okay, but this is on average. The first year, they won't make $240,000 the first year, but on average, this is what it works out. Okay, so let's say maybe they do very well, and after 1 year, they have let's say $100,000 extra, right, from the job, and they owe $200,000 to the loan. How long will it take them to pay off the $200,000? About 2 years, right? About 2 years. In 2 years, they've liquidated the debt, and from that point forward, it's all gravy. It's all profit. Okay? So let's say they graduate from college at 18 plus 5 is 23, 4 years of medical school, 27, 2 years of residency, 29. Okay? And then 2 years to pay off their student loan, 31. And then from 31 to 71, the next 4 years, it's all profit. $130,000, on average, $130,000 a year in profit times, let's say, 40 years, their profit will be about $5 million. Okay, that's their thinking. And does it work? Yes, it works. Yes, it works. Okay, so student loans can be a good an example of good debt if you know what you're doing. Medical school is the best example. If you borrow $200,000 to study like archaeology, that might not be such a good investment, okay? Because I don't know where you're going to find a job as an archaeologist, you know? You'll have to go to Egypt or maybe Mexico or someplace, Greece, you know, to get a job as an archaeologist, right? Digging things up, right? So, okay. So that's a good example of that's one example of good debt. The other example of good debt in California is real estate, okay? California real estate has been returning somewhere between 7 and 8% a year. That's your rate of return. A lot better than banks, much better than most investment instruments. Okay, and so if we refer to a rule of 72, any investment that gives you 7 or 8% is going to double every 10 years. Okay, if you find something that gives you 7 or 8% a year, in 10 years it will double. The value of your investment will double. Okay, and right now the median home price of a house in Orange County is $1 million. That means that half of the homes in Orange County are worth less than $1 million, half of the homes in Orange County are worth more than $1 million. Okay, that's the midpoint, $1 million. Okay, so if let's say you own a $1 million home in Orange County, which a lot of people do. Okay, and within 10 years, the value of that home is probably going to double. 10 years from now, how much is your home going to be worth? Probably. What's 1 million times 2? 1 million times 2 is what? 2 million, right? So that means in the next 10 years, the people who own medium valued homes in Orange County are going to pick up about $1 million in 10 years. That's a good investment. Now, do you think people have $1 million to buy a house cash money? No. So they take out a loan, right, to take possession of that asset, and then they wait. Maybe they fix up their house a little bit if they can, and 10 years from now, they're going to be sitting at probably about $1 million in a 10-year span. That's a sign of good debt. It's debt, but it's good, right? As long as it produces money for you, right? If it produces money for you, it's good, right? Okay. So those are two good examples. Okay, let's go to the next slide.